Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today. Today, we have the Executive Director of ECF, which is the Equal Community Foundation, Anjana Goswami. Thank you so much, Anjana, for joining us today.
Thank you, Shashwat. Thank you for inviting me for this.
Sure. So, Anjana, even before we get into, what the organization does, a little bit more about yourself, how you got engaged with ECF, what has been your life story, and how, you landed up working with ECF.
Yes. So I've been with ACF for the last 10 years now. And before that, I have around 8 years of experience working in corporates and working with NGOs who directly work with women and girls. So my experience essentially has been both like CSR, so corporate kind of environment and volunteerism and this kind of environment. And a lot of years before joining ECF was around working with women and girls, mainly on self-help group and girls mainly on SRHR issues. So that has been my main core area before I joined ECF. And one of the things that made me join ECF is while I used to work with girls, or especially while working with women, there is this incident that I want to talk about. We were doing a legal awareness on domestic violence, so we had lawyers and social workers together, and we did that session for 2 hours, talking about what needs to be done if there is a domestic violence case, and if for example if your husband is hitting you, what needs to be done, step one, step two, and stuff like that. And when we finished the session, one of the women came to me and said that, दीदी यो आप ये सब सिखा रहे हो, आप ये सब बता रहे हो, अच्छी बात है, ये अच्छा है, ऐसा होना चाहिए. लेकिन मुझे एक बात बताओ कि अगर मेरा लिटरली शी यूज्ड, अगर मेरा पति मुझे रात को 12 बजे मारता है और मैंने आपने जो बताया वो अगर मैं देखूं तो मुझे सबसे पहले तो घर से बाहर निकल के एफआईआर लेना है या ये भी, तो मैं सबसे पहले तो मैं कहीं पे सेफ हूँ क्या, मैं अकेली ये चीजें करने वाली हूँ क्या, कर पाऊंगी क्या, सो प्रैक्टिकली भी ये पॉसिबल है क्या. एंड सेकेंडली, ये सब हमको ही बोलने से अच्छा मेरे पति को जाके बोलो कि मारो ही मत, बात ही खत्म हो जाएगी. So she actually said, she didn't use the word, but she actually said कि हिंसा सहने वाले भी हम हैं और हिंसा ना सहने की जिम्मेदारी भी हम पे है. So the ownership of no, the onus of not being vulnerable to this is also lying on them. So that is when I realized that I mean, yes, we need to start working with men and boys if this has to end. And of course I did. Everybody knows that we need to work, but I wasn't sure of how and what, and at that point of time 10 years before. And then I searched organizations which worked with men and boys in Pune, came across ECF. I had applied, and then I think 3-4 months later, at that point of time, they didn't have an opportunity. 3-4 months later, I was called for interview, and that's how I landed here. Initially, I was working on the curriculum development for boys. So this is a gender transformative program for boys. So I was deeply involved in the content creation. I was also involved in capacity building of the team so that they can go and train these boys. So that was my core area for like at least 5 years in ECF. Post that, I started taking over more around monitoring and evaluation, around fundraising, around finance, HR. So that's how dhire dhire there was that kind of all round responsibilities with me. And last year in Jan 2022 is when I took over to lead ECF. So yeah, that has been my journey.
Well, I like how connected your dots are, right from when you started working in the sector to kind of that one instance that made you look for, organizations who actually work with boys to educate them. And here you are 10 years later when you're actually leading the organization. So it's quite an inspiring story. And there's one more organization called MAWA, which is there
Yes,
in Mumbai,
yes,
and they're
yes.
also part of the value circle. So I had a very interesting conversation, and I just wanted to ask you as well. Now like what kids used to learn, at the age of 14 or 20. Now they have started learning the same thing, which is studies and communication and internet at the age of 10, 11, things like that. And the whole aspect has changed, right? So now, earlier, do you also teach it as a curriculum in which schools, or do you do it as a separate program with ECF?
So currently it's a community-based intervention. Schools,
Okay.
we do it, but schools, I would say it is awareness level. We don't get into attitude and behavior change. So community-based is where we spend a longer time with the
Right.
participants.
Right. So have you also like decreased, like I saw it on your website as well, it said anywhere between 13 to 18, if I'm not wrong, is the kind of kids that you work with. Uh,
Mhm.
so do you think with time you would probably have to uh, increase that uh, bracket? So let's say anywhere from 9 to 18, because they need to be taught at a very younger level as to how to, what is right, what is wrong. Like you said,
Mhm.
if they taught at the very basic level, by the
Yeah.
time they reach the level, they already know what is right or wrong. So just
Yeah.
wanted your thoughts around that.
Yeah. So definitely, I mean, while we were working with boys for 10 years, we did notice that we were able to see individual and family level change to an extent. Individual level change for a longer, which was sustainable, but community level changes were missing. And the other thing that we noticed is boys also need that enabling environment for them to take actions when it comes to community level. So that was one of the reasons why we thought we need to work with all the age groups. Start from young and then also talk to older men and also involve girls and other genders for that matter. So that's where the conversation started in the last 5 years. We've been having these conversations around how do we start engaging younger boys and girls or other age group men as well. While we were doing that, we really wanted to give ourselves more time around how we want to do this. So it's not that we've even invented like smaller curriculum for the younger boys, especially boys. I wouldn't say girls because at that point of time our expertise was boys or is boys even today. Having said that, we were doing like a capsule kind of a thing with younger boys, where we were talking about respect in the simple language, how we should not use abusive language, or how toys that they are using. I mean, there is that discrimination right from the beginning, right? The cars and cycles, and these are for boys, and dolls are for girls. So we used to talk about these small things, although it was not structured. But in few communities we started. But we also realized that if we really need to work with this generation, with this age group, we need to be more structured. We need to come up with a proper, robust curriculum. This kind of capsules may not be very helpful. So that was one of our learnings from what we did at that point of time. The other thing also, because last year, I mean, for the 2 years, we've had our own, like everybody, every one of us, we've had our own struggles with the pandemic as well as the FCRA. And then that also made us, and then there was a leadership transition in ECF at ECF. And then we realized that we would have to probably revisit our vision, mission, and strategy to see what we've been doing. Yes, that is giving us some part of the result, but things have changed. 10 years ago, we started this work. 10 years ago, that was the need, and that is
Right.
how it worked. But today, things have changed. Like you said, I mean, if you look at boys 10 years before, they were different than from what today they are. So that way, we realized that that's one point. Secondly, because there has been a lot of challenges that as organization we were facing, we thought it was the right moment for us to revisit the organization strategy. And that's how we came in touch with Vijaya, Manjula, for that matter. And Social Lens has been helping us build our new strategy, show us a new direction, guide us through the path. So during this, I mean, when we had these conversations, that's when all this has come up. So we are hoping that going forward, we will start, having programs for different age groups to see how we cater their needs, also how gender transformation can go through right from, that way, right from the birth actually. So yes, yeah, this is in our pipeline, I would say.
Interesting. And I'm very curious because, for kids, it would be much easier to be a part of these community because, they're still young, right? But for grown-up men who already have a bit of that male ego that, they have it. So how do you really get people to be part of these communities? Because I feel majority of the men would not, who are into these things, right? Or who have a perspective, they would be having a particular perspective. So how hard is it to get those people to first be a part of the community and then bring that change in them?
Yes. So yes, with men we struggle. So with fathers of these participants, we have our own struggles where one is they're not available. They're always outside, either for job or either with their hanging around with their friends. But so we essentially have spent a lot of time with the mothers of the participants and not the fathers. So that challenge was there. In fact, it was only during pandemic where we were able to have like around 200 fathers who came and came as in not came. It was an online session, but that was possible because of pandemic, maybe because they were just at home and they wanted to be engaged, they wanted to be heard, so they were there. So getting men, like you said, is difficult. So in fact, I think MAVA would be the right organization to talk about how they get men involved in this program. But at ECF, getting these 13 to 17-year-old boys uh, has, I would say, initially it was a challenge, but later on, once they start understanding that this is not just a lecture or this is not another school. Here we have games, we have fun activities, we can discuss. It's a safe space for us to talk about anything, even our affairs for that matter. A 13, 14-year-old would talk about their girlfriends and they know that they won't be judged, because we ensure that our facilitators are equipped in such a way that we don't we're non-judgmental and we let the participants speak themselves, open up. Not that we want to encourage this, but we wanted them to open up so that we can talk about responsible behavior, we can talk about what respect is, what consent is, what do you do in such situations. So for us to talk about it, we wanted them to open up first, so then we can have those conversations, and that has really helped. So the moment the boys realize that this is not a school where there is a lecture, ये करो वो मत करो, यहाँ पे हमें सुनते हैं और हमें जो चाहिए हम बात कर सकते हैं, और हमको यकीन है कि ये सर या मैडम जाके हमारे पेरेंट्स को नहीं बताएंगे. Because there are, of course, if there are very problematic things that we feel that parents need to know, then also we ask the boys, if this is important and your parents need to know, we'll be there to support you, and we need to talk. But we never do it without their permission. That has been our and I think that they appreciate. So
Right.
when they
I
talk
think that,
about it with
yeah,
other boys, yeah, and the other boys start coming to our program, so that way mobilization has been easier through that spread of word.
right. It's very important, especially at that age, right? Like even when we were kids, when you see that you're given that space of freedom to express,
Yeah,
is when like, and it's also process. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes you a few months to build that trust, and then you start opening up about things slowly and slowly. So it's amazing how you're building that safe space for them to be able to share things, and uh, that reflection in itself will help them kind of correct themselves. Even if there's something that they need to be taught, I think because they're expressing it themselves, it'll be much easier for them to kind of, learn anything that's something that they're doing wrong.
yeah.
One thing that I wanted to know at a personal level, how has working with PCF and managing it now helped you grow personally?
I would say this has immensely helped me grow personally, because one of the things is, so when I joined out of, okay, this is what I wanted to do. And when I started getting involved, I realized that there's so much to learn here, there's so much to grow here. So I think, how do I put it? It's a growth journey for me. There was so much to learn in terms of I wasn't aware of what gender transformative approach is. So it was, I mean, I used to work with women and girls, but I don't know how to work with boys. So it was all learning by itself. And it was made interesting at every point of time. So even if you ask one of our team members, or all our team members also, they would talk about how, on even our day-to-day conversations is around gender norms, and how each one of us is finding difficulties in challenging few gender norms. So for example, somebody who's traveling by bus would say, okay, आज भी मेरे साथ मतलब कुछ ना कुछ हुआ, ये हुआ, वो हुआ. Somebody would say, morning I have to prepare, I have to cook food and then come here. I have to still manage everything. So, and all this is happening not just because we are a gender transformative approach organization, doesn't mean that we are all equitable. We're all going through, it's a journey, it's a process, it's going to be gradual. So I think even to have that understanding of it's going to be gradual, because initially I remember I used to be like, okay, sab kuch abhi challenge karna hai, I want to challenge everything. But I do know that out of 10 things, probably I have just managed to do like 4 things. There are six more things that I still need to challenge and that I need to work on myself. So it's I would say the whole of ECF journey has been a kind of professional growth, but also personally it helped me challenge my own gender norms, which helped build better relationships in my own family, and also gave me that sense of to have that patience कि सब कुछ एक रात में नहीं होने वाला. It's going to be gradual, and have the patience. It's okay अगर नहीं हो रहा है तो just admit. So to be honest with oneself and to be honest with the team and the organization partners, I think that is something that I've learned. So yeah, there's immense learning. I think it's a separate article altogether, if I have to say.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure, I mean, I have so much more to learn. I've just started off my career a few years ago, and you know, with more you work with the community, the more you go in depth, and then you kind of realize there are certain things that we didn't really know about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wish you all the best at ECF, and I'm sure you guys are doing a wonderful job. Just one more thing that you pointed out was in terms of challenges. As a leader, what is the one biggest challenge that you feel, uh, you know, as running this organization? Or I wouldn't say biggest, but one of the major challenges that you feel, uh, and at a personal capacity, not as the organization, but at a personal capacity.
So yeah, at a personal, because organization, I have lots of challenges. I can go on and on, including fundraising, which is a major thing. But at a personal capacity, I would say one of the important thing is to keep the team motivated. So while and keep myself motivated, and then because as a leader, I should not pass on, I mean, once in a while that's okay to talk about negative things, talk about challenges. But I realize that as a leader, you can't keep on talking about challenges very openly with the team, because that does demotivate the team. So somewhere to have that balance, somewhere I mean, you're transparent, you're honest, that is one point. But also to kind of have that balance out of how honest you, or honesty is one part, but how much do you want to say and how much do you want to hold back so that the team is motivated. I think at a personal capacity, I'm struggling with that, where I tend to be more open to the team. I tend to be more sharing everything. And somewhere I feel that's good, because then everybody is in that same page, everybody together work, collectively work on something. But I realize that I mean, being in that position for 1 year now, I realize that okay, there are some things that I need to balance. So I think that is one challenge that I'm currently dealing with, and I'm talking to different people who have been in this journey to see how they can help me and what I can learn from them.
Thank you so much, Anjana. It was a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for being so transparent about things. It's not easy to be vulnerable or talk about your challenges, and I think a lot of times, a lot of people take inspiration from that, right? When somebody else sees you talk, they would feel, okay, I'm not the only one who's at this space, right? And I think that really helps other leaders as well to grow.
Yes.
So thank you so much for taking out the time, and we wish you all the best with ECF and your journey with them. Thank you so much.
Thank, thank you, Shashwat, for giving this time and giving this opportunity for us. Thank you.